Canada. I am Tabish, this is Aaron, this is Chris, Lindsay, and Weber. First, we would like to start off with the agenda. So, first item we have is introduction, which basically talks about Canada. And we have quick facts about Canada. Then we will go into the system of government, which is presented by Aaron, followed by economic and tax environment, which is to each me. History of accounting regulatory bodies is covered by Wembo. The audit environment, and the IFRS adoption framework, Canadian GAAP versus the US, and effective IFRS adoption and cost is covered by Chris. Issues with adopting IFRS and features of accounting profession is so we'd like to go ahead and get started with facts. Canada has a total population of about 32,225,000. The capital is Ottawa. The two primary languages are English and French. It is considered the second largest area after Russia. The major industries include transportation, chemicals, food products, and minerals. There's also agricultural industries, which are wheat, barley, and tobacco. Exports, which is covered by NAFTA, is 80% of Canada's trade in the US. Now, we'd like to pass it on to Evan for the side of it.
Canada's system of government. Canada is a democratic constitutional monarchy. The monarch is Queen Elizabeth II, and is the head of the state. And then the Governor General is appointed by the head of the state. The Governor General is in the head of the both executive and legislative branches. The Prime Minister is in the head of the executive branch. The legislative branch has full parliament in the Senate and House of Commons. And then the judiciary branch is an independent branch. They have five major federal political parties. It's Conservative Party of Canada, who holds 160 seats in the House of Commons. New Democratic Party has 100 seats. And Liberal Party of Canada, which holds 34 seats. And then Doug Baker's, which holds 4 seats. And Green Party of Canada, which holds 1 seat. There are some other minor political parties which basically they don't hold any seats in the country. The way the Governor General is appointed is through Queen Elizabeth II, which carries out the duties of head of state. The Governor General is the head of both executive and legislative branches. The Prime Minister, along with other ministers in cabinet, is appointed by Governor General. The Prime Minister is often the leader of the political party which has the majority of the House, which are directly elected by the population of Canada. And practically the Prime Minister is the person who holds the power to run the country. The Parliament of Canada has two houses, lower house and upper house. The House of Commons, which is the lower house, has 308 members, elected for a maximum of 5 years. The Senate, or the upper house, has 105 members, appointed by the Governor General on the advice of Prime Minister. Senate rarely rejects the bill passed by the directly elected Commons, and the Prime Minister of Canada and the rest of the cabinet stay in office only while they retain the confidence of the Commons. The Senate does not exercise. Canada has 10 provinces. Canada's provinces combined to make up the world's second largest country by area. The provinces are considered to be co-sovereign regions, and each province has its own crown represented by the lieutenant governor. These are the 10 provinces of Canada. Canadian judicial system, which is independent from the executive and legislative branches. It has a federal government that exclusive right to legislate criminal law, while the provinces have exclusive control over civil law. Federal courts only hear cases concerned with matters which are under exclusive federal control, such as taxation and federal administrative agencies. The federal government appoints and pays for both the judges of the federal court and the judges of the superior and appellate level court. The provincial governments are responsible for appointing judges of the lower provincial courts.
So we talk about the economics of Canada, and how we're comparing it to the economics in the U.S. So Canada has a capitalist economy that's based on consumer demands. And there are basically three major stock exchanges. It's the Toronto Stock Exchange, the Trust or TSX Venture Exchange, and the Canadian National Stock Exchange. In the U.S., we like to think we have capitalist economy because sometimes the government comes in and takes over. There are 16 total stock exchanges in the United States. The famous ones are NYSE and NASDAQ. For both Canada and the U.S., the major providers of financing are shareholders and corporations. So shareholders. And then for both the countries, they require high quality and quantity of disclosures. Okay. Now I'll talk about the tax environment within the U.S. and Canada. Within Canada, there is a Canada Revenue Agency, and within the U.S., it's the Internal Revenue Service, which is the IRS. In Canada, there is no formal inheritance tax. In the U.S., there's a state tax. In the U.S., the state tax is imposed on the taxable state, which is the net worth of individuals, and the state pays the tax. And the beneficiary pays the inheritance tax, which is basically levied based on states' jurisdictions. So it depends where you live. In Canada, capital gains are taxed at normal rates, while in the U.S., capital gains are taxed at a preferred rate of 15%, but that's only if you're not a high income tax rate. If you're considered a high income tax rate, then the capital gain tax rate is ordinary income tax rate. And federal income tax rates vary between 59 to 29% in Canada, and for the U.S., it's around 10% to 39%. There's also provincial and territorial tax added, and it's basically like state taxes in the U.S. And if you're taxable in the U.S., generally if you have taxes or if you're doing business in. Next, we'll talk about history. Then we'll talk about that.
I'm going to talk about accounting history and accounting bodies in Canada. Since immigrants came to Canada, they also brought the accounting system in that country. But until 1880s, there's the first formal accounting association was formed in Canada, and it is also the first formal accounting association in the North America. It is called Association of Accountants of Montreal, and it was established by John McCain. He thought it's going to be a good idea to have a national accounting association. And in 1902, the Canadian Association of Chartered Accountants, as known as EACA, was formed. But at the beginning, this organization is like a civil organization. The main purpose is just to have an annual meeting. Next slide. But until 1938, since they didn't have to have the uniform evaluation to provide like us CPA exam for us. In 1951, GSA changed their name to Canadian Institute of Chartered Accountants, known as CACA. His role is like conducting research issues, setting accounting and audit standards, publish professional literatures and guidance, develop continuing education. In 1968, the CICA released the CICA handbook, and Canada decided to use CICA handbook. This development as the basis for Canadian GAAP. In 1990s, the CICA released the last amendment to reflect the current mandate and powers of CICA. In 2008, CICA announced that the Canadian GAAP will be merged with IFRS beginning on or no later January 1st, 2011. Canada has three legacy accounting bodies. CICA was the first one. I already talked about it. So we just go to the next one. The first one is Certified Management Accountants of Canada. This organization has 50,000 members around the world. CMA Canada grants them a professional designation in managerial accounting, publish management guideline and management accounting practice. It's also responsible for standard setting, accreditation, and professional development of certified management accountants. Certified General Accountants of Canada is the last Canadian accounting body. This organization founded in 1908, and it serves like 75,000 certified general accountants and students in Canada and more than 90 countries. This organization works in industrial finance, government, and public practices. It also established the designation of certification requirement and professional development, conducts research and
Right. So, the audit environment in Canada transitioned into international standards like IFRS did to create a universal and harmonious universal standards for auditing. So the Auditing and Assurance Standards Board adopted international standards on auditing as Canadian auditing standards in December 2010. The Auditing and Assurance Standards Board believed that converging was the best option for the future of standard setting in Canada. IFRS was officially adopted in fiscal year 2011 for most publicly traded companies in Canada. The IFRS is required for publicly traded companies that sell securities domestically. However, if the securities are also being sold in the U.S., they can elect to use U.S. GAAP. Also, some public entities that do not trade securities were given permission to use GAAP until January 2015. In the next slide, I'll talk about the differences between the U.S. GAAP and Canadian GAAP. In addition, investment companies and life insurance companies are deferred from using GAAP until 2014, and entities with rate-regulated activities are deferred until January 2015. The deferral is intended to give these companies time to observe and conduct studies on the effect of IFRS in their particular industries, and the dates could be extended as well. Private companies and non-profit agencies also have the option to elect IFRS. However, most of them are using Canadian GAAP. So I'll talk about
the differences between the two gaps. So there are significant differences between US GAAP and Canadian GAAP. The first being that Canadian GAAP allows the development activities to be capitalized in research and development cases, whereas in the US, our GAAP requires them to be expensed. Also, the ACSB has recently published in August 2013 an exposure draft which will replace the language control for consolidations of variable interest entities. This control is considerably different than US GAAP standards and does create another significant difference, and this was Canada's attempt to realign themselves more with IFRS. So the effect of IFRS adoption on investors. IFRS are required for foreign companies whose securities trade in Canada. There are 3 exceptions. The first is if it's a US SEC issuer, they have the option of using, or they can use US GAAP. The second is if a foreign company trades less than 10% of their securities in Canada and is also a US SEC issuer, they must use the accounting standards approved by SEC for foreign private issuers. And the third exception is that the foreign issuers in the jurisdictions designated by the Canadian securities regulatories. They may use the accounting principles from their own country, or they can use IFRS, or they cannot reconcile to IFRS if they do use their own accounting standards. So I'm going to discuss now the budgeted cost of IFRS adoption in Canada. As you can see, 62% of the companies budgeted IFRS transition costs to be over $500,000. 32% of the companies budgeted IFRS transition to be between $100,000 and $499,000, and 30% of the companies budgeted IFRS transition costs to be less than $100,000. According to a report cited in the slides, most costs came under budget, with nearly half of the respondents stating that the IT systems transition were far less than the actual budgeted amount. So some of the actual transition costs and resources used for publicly traded companies in Canada as they adopted into IFRS, the top 3 costs were internal payroll costs to support the IFRS transition was the #1 cost of transitioning to IFRS, and that was a total cost of just under $900,000. The second largest cost for transitioning to IFRS was additional audit fees to verify and ensure the data integrity for the first set of financial statements that would be issued under IFRS. And the third largest cost of transitioning to IFRS in Canada was the external audit and just the clerical support of supporting the transition for the issuers of IFRS. So Shenzi's going to talk about the issues.
After Canada adopted IFRS, many issuers have already begun to develop their changeover plans. There are some areas they need to focus on. Firstly, the financial governance. The issuer should assess how the changeover to IFRS will impact its financial governance. For example, difference in recorded results of our concentration and the financial position arising from the changeover, particularly if they were material, would negatively affect the issuer's financial ratios and even trigger default. Alternatively, an issuer may find that the changeover will improve its ratio, which may make the prospect of early adoption as more attractive. And second is the reporting obligations. An issuer should assess its financial reporting obligation and the contractual arrangements. For example, under a loan agreement with the frozen debt provision, an issuer would be required absent a waiver to maintain reporting both Canadian GAAP and IFRS. The third one is the effect on reported financial
achieving reported financial results because more categories of financial instruments, assets and liabilities will be subject to fair value accounting. Next thing is compensation metrics. To the extent that adopting metrics must change in earnings and the financial positions, the performance metrics that an issuer use to compensate executives and other employees may no longer appropriate. Controls and certification requirements. The management should consider the impact of changeover to IFRS on internal control over financial reporting and disclosure controls and procedures. The changes that may be necessary to address new and additional disclosures required by IFRS, and how to maintain adequate controls and the integrity of information disclosed to investors through the transition period. And issues control system may also be affected by the addition of audit and assurance standard to adopt the international standard of accounting, which are issued by the International Auditing and Assurance Standard Board. Financial literacy, audit committees and other board members will need to be able to read and understand a set of financial statements prepared under IFRS. Audit committee members in particular need to be sufficiently knowledgeable about IFRS so they can evaluate management assessment and the selection of accounting policies, including the sensitivity analysis that led to management positions. Corporate and security laws. Canadian securities regulators are in the process of developing necessary changes to security rules. Since the handbook of Canadian Institute of Chartered Accountants will contain the full body of IFRS in effect from time to time, both statutes will permit reporting IFRS when it replaces Canadian GAAP on January 1st, 2011. And for the future of accounting profession in Canada, as mentioned above, there are three major accounting professions in Canada, and they are going to unite under one banner recently. For the advantages, a united Canadian accounting profession will be more efficient and effective than the status quo, be more relevant both at home and abroad, be better able to enhance the support and service it provides to all members, and be better to protect and serve the public interest. For these reasons, Canadians are committed to unite these organizations, to bring the organizations together, and they are considering the creation of a new designation, one that is globally recognized leader in both financial management, accounting, and assurance, as well as an internationally recognized business credential. However, merging accounting bodies is indeed a difficult strategy to execute successfully. According to Certificate General Accountants CGA Canada, several provincial bodies have been able to progress on key issues such as legal structure, a member ratification process, and the enforceable commandments regarding member protection and minority rights. Overall, the changing is inevitable if the profession is to advance the interests of Canadian accountants, reflect the changing nature of work, and continue to support the growth of Canadian enterprise. And the ultimate goal is benefiting Canadian accountants and serving for the public interest. And thank you. That's all for our presentation.